It is time for the No Cap Recap
No cap.
with Pastor Ellington and
Amen.
Marwan Cameron. Rev, how you doing today?
I am well. All is well with my soul, brother. Yes, sir.
All is well, huh?
Yes, all is well with my soul.
All right, that's kind of a short answer.
No, that's my usual. That's what I'm usually say. I usually say, be like, I'm good. All's well.
All is well with the
All's
forest?
well. No. It's a reference to the book of Esther.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like all is no, was it Esther? No, it wasn't Esther. Anyway, all I'm saying when I say I'm well is all's well with my soul. All's well with my soul.
All right,
yes.
I like it.
That's what I'm saying.
So today we're going to get into James chapter 5, verses 7 through 12.
Yes. Those are the verses.
So what I'm going to do
we preach
is,
today.
if you notice, you've been watching, right? I'm in trying to be in two places at once. So we were downtown at the Henry Dick Durpin post office, which was great, covering that. And then Keyshawn and I had to rush over here.
That was today?
Yeah, that was today.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why we weren't in church today.
Yeah.
So it went from 10 to noon, and then we had the boogie over here. So, and we here, right? We're present and accounted for. Amen. So I'm going to go ahead and read the verses, and then you can kind of recap, summarize the sermon, because this is the one time I couldn't even listen to it because I was covering an event.
I gotcha.
And again, we're using the Common Standard Bible. Did I say that wrong? Christian Standard Bible.
CSB.
Yes. All right. So, waiting for the Lord is kind of how they had titled it. But verse 7, therefore, brothers and sisters, be patient until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth and is patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. Verse 8, you also must be patient. I see where this is going. Strengthen your hearts because the Lord's coming is near. Verse 9, brothers and sisters, do not complain about one another so that you will not be judged. Look, the judge stands at the door. Verse 10, brothers and sisters, take the prophets who spoke in the Lord's name as an example of suffering and patience. See, we count as blessed those who have endured. I'm blessed and highly favored. You have heard of Job's endurance and have seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. The Lord is compassionate and merciful. And verse 12, above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath, but let your eyes mean yes, or let your yes mean yes, and your no mean no, so that you won't fall under judgment. So, I'm a like today. So, summarize the sermon. I'm sad I missed that. I'm gonna have to definitely go back and listen to the word there.
Okay. Well, so as a summary, well, before I get to summarizing, all of those that are watching, we've really been, fighting with social media as far as streaming goes. If you want to watch our services via virtually, you can go to our website nhmbaptist.org and go to the sermons tab and just click on live stream. We start streaming every Saturday at 11 a.m. and so yeah, you can watch there uninterrupted without all the so today's sermon really kind of talked about just being patient and not complaining. Today's theme was the patient complainer.
Patient complainer.
Yeah, patient complainer, right? Those are in my mind, those are two polar opposites. Like how does someone be patient and a complainer? You know what I'm saying? Like the two don't really fit. Mentally, in my mind, they don't. And so that was kind of the thing to kind of kind of get people thinking like, yeah, patience and complaining, they don't really go together, and most people don't think of the two together. And so it was, as I was saying, that was the theme. And so we were just talking about having patience with one another, having patience with God, and how patience strengthens our faith, and a lack of patience can erode our faith, and complaining can be damaging to our witness as Christians, and um, you know complaining isn't conducive to you know um, just the Christian way. I don't really believe, I don't believe that complaining is conducive to who it is God would have us to be as His children.
So let me try to digest this. So you were
Hmm.
saying that complaining can harm your witness, and so are you saying that folks are going to be looking at you and they should see the word in you, they should see God in you? So if you're constantly complaining and oh woe's me, then it's like, well, where's your faith? Is that
Yes,
is that what you mean
yes,
by that?
yes,
Okay.
yes, indeed. That's kind of where I was going with it. Um, and so we need and that complaining, like I said, it can really be damaging to your faith, because as Christians, we don't sign up to be Christians under the pretense that now we got it, we're on easy road, now we're on, everything's kind of just perfect for us, because now we're Christians. Like, no, we still live in this world, we still deal with you know the trials and tribulations that come along with life, and sometimes it may be particular trials and tribulations that come from being just from being a Christian. And so you know we go into it with that open awareness that you know um, this doesn't make the process of living any easier. It's just that uh, we we have a hope for the end.
I might push back on that, in a
Okay.
good way.
All right.
And I've told the story. I don't know if it was last week or the week before,
Mm-hmm.
but I speak about how my father was one of the strongest men that I knew,
Mm-hmm.
and watched him go through his amputations before he passed, and still giving glory to God, right?
Yeah.
Still being able to smile and laugh and just be positive all
Mm-hmm.
the way through the end. It didn't mean that he didn't have times where he cried and was in pain, right?
Indeed. Been there.
But I think it's a choice, right? At some point in time. So people are going to go through similar things. Right? We may experience homelessness. We may experience hunger. We may
Mm-hmm.
experience a death. We may experience sickness. But how you go through that, it can be a very divergent experience, right?
Yeah.
If your faith is strong and you know God and you're leaning on that faith, it's going to see you through, right? So you're filled in your spirit, you've got that hope on the other side, right? You're not, it's just not doom and gloom and why me. And so I've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen that. And, we're all, here in America or in Kitsap County going through similar things, right? So how do you go through it? And so when you see folks that are connected to God and their faith is strong and they're happy, they have that joy, they have that unspeakable peace. I think that's where I say, people can go through it in a different way, even if they're experiencing the same event. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I've and it's no hidden secret. I have sickle cell, and so I go through crisis, and my faith gets me through. And but I do, yeah, I have those moments of of the pain, and so forth, and the sickness that comes along with it. And um, the thing is. like I always try and think, of myself as, in a favorable position, because, and I tell people all the time, like, I know that there's somebody in the world that has it a whole lot worse than I do. And, so why do I get to complain? That doesn't mean that, I haven't cried and, saying, had to deal with it, but that just means I don't get to complain to God and or anybody else, anybody about, dealing with what I have to deal with. Like, no, because there's somebody way worse, and there's always somebody out there in a worse situation. So yeah, no, I'm too blessed to sit back and complain about it. You know,
It is one of the reasons why I say that I'm blessed and highly favored,
yeah,
right? And folks that know my situation know what kind of pain I live in on a
yeah,
day to day
yeah,
basis, and the trials and tribulations that we consistently go through.
yeah.
And some of those things you volunteer, right? Because you want to help people.
Hmm.
I was just talking to Keyshawn earlier on when I was forming G2. Folks were telling me that I was stupid. Why wouldn't you just use your resources and have your own security and do for you and do for your daughter and folks that your family, and
Mm.
let other folks do what they do, right? Like they came in here and they made their decisions and choices, and that is what it is. And so they don't understand the spirit of service in that, which my dad instilled in me. So now that's what I do. But they also don't understand the joy that comes from and the purpose that comes from helping other people, of
Hmm.
being a servant. And so that piece is really important. One of the things that I am careful to tell people is, your experience is still your experience, and
Hmm.
we have a lot of non PC sayings, right? Like low man
Mm.
on the totem pole would not be a PC thing to say. But another thing that's not PC to say, and we say it all the time, and I hear it all the time. There's kids in Africa that are starving, and it's like, no, there's kids right here in this town that are starving.
Yeah,
And so, why does
yeah.
Africa have to be the proxy for starvation,
Yeah, and
right?
there's kids in the Middle East. There's kids in Europe.
Right.
There's
But
kids
we got
all
to go
around the
all these
world.
continents and
Yeah,
find some little black
yeah,
kids that's
yeah,
starving, right?
yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
what they see on TV. But the
Mhm.
point of that is yes, there are kids in other places that are starving. That doesn't take away from your hungry belly,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so sometimes folks will use that to say, well, you know what? There's people starving here. At least you had this meal and whatnot. And it's like, I can't hear you right now because my stomach is too loud.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
respect the fact of how you feel, right? Your emotions are valid on how you feel.
Amen.
It's what you do with those emotions. Um, that's important, right? Are you going to sit in your anger? Are you going to sit in your sadness? Or are you going to feel that, right? Feel that anger, feel that madness, feel that sadness, and then work through it and process that, right?
So
Suppressing your feelings isn't healthy.
no, it's not. So I want to, because complaining is just kind of one aspect of today's scripture.
Mhm.
And so I want to kind of talk with you a bit about the other aspect, the patience part.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what for you, like you were saying, people were, saying like, hey, why use your resources, to help other people? Well, of course, I want to leave the world better than I found it. It's one good reason I could think of. But anyway, um, how how do you how do you live patiently, in your life? Because there's you're dealing with people that have uh, needs, and
I have needs.
we all
you
do,
know?
yeah. But what I'm saying is, you're dealing with people that have particularly urgent needs. I'll put
Right,
it that way,
right.
and we know that even though we live in this type of microwave society where mentally everybody wants everything to happen so quickly, but sometimes things don't move so quickly, right?
Right.
And you have to have patience for, the gears to turn, and you have to impress that on someone that has, particularly urgent needs. How do you exude that patience and then, in turn, kind of, uh, get that person to see that need for that patience in a particularly urgent situation?
So there's a lot there.
That's the tangible. You
That's
like
the
the
tangible.
tangible.
I do like the
Yeah,
tangible.
I'm making you do the tangible this week.
Hey, you know what? There's a lot there, and
Yeah.
verse 7 is up there, so I'll
Yeah,
pop up verse 8 as I go into that.
Okay.
Depending on who you talk to, they would tell you that I'm not patient, right? They would tell you that I'm impatient, and they would be half right in that I'm not impatient in regards to them. I'm impatient in regards to the effort, right?
Mm.
So you come where you come. We have a saying, you meet people where they're at. I will meet you where you're at, but you have to be willing to give the effort. So what I'm looking for is effort, not perfection, but effort. That I'm impatient with, right? Because many folks are looking for change in their life, and so they will come to me either as an individual or come to me through the organization or whatever the case may be, um, and say, I want this for my life. I need to change this. I want to change that. And so my only level of impatience, which could be misconstrued, is through the lack of effort, right? If you're giving 80, 90% and above, there's really nothing I can say because you're in it, you're trying. For me, again, domestication is important. Even though I was only with my father from the age of 5 to 15 before I went back into foster care and aged out, I got lessons in that decade of being a young child, um, and
Some could say those are some pretty crucial years.
they are crucial years, especially if you're paying attention, right? Um, and I was from Missouri. I was from the Show Me State. I had to go out there and try to say, well, I can, hold my beer. I can do this,
Yeah.
and learn that you could, but there might be a better way for you to do it, and you might have this empty feeling. So, I've owned home and owned cars. I've got a passport. I'm very blessed in the material things, but at the end of the day, and I speak about Maslow's hierarchy. Once you have the shelter and the food and the safety, what is your purpose in life? And so for me, it's purpose. I know how I lived. I know how hard it was, whether they were self inflicted decisions and consequences that I had to pay for, or just things of, being black in America, whatever the case may be, right? And so I know how hard it is. So I'm very empathetic and sympathetic with folks. And I want to help navigate them through the stresses of their life so that they can be the best version of the person that they want to be and be able to provide for themselves and their family. Right. And so in that, I'm very patient. In that, I would say, I would tell folks, G2 is your fourth and fifth chance, where other agencies or folks have kind of said, well, no, you messed up. You can't be here. We're the third, the fourth, and the fifth chance. So in that, I'm very patient. Um, One of the reasons why it's so critical to learn patience, and we think about the tangible piece in that, I need to lose weight, right? I didn't put this weight on in 2 weeks. I didn't put it on in a year. I'm not taking it off in 2 weeks. I'm not taking it off in a year. It's a lifestyle change, not a fad diet or going hard for 6 months. You really got to change some things. And so that is going to require patience. The problem is, like you said, we're in this instant gratification microwave society. And so we want it now. We need results now. You're checking the scale every week, every night. It ain't moving. Oh, I went up instead of going down. Well, muscle weighs more than fat. Well, there's all these things, right? As a tangible example for those that struggle with weight. But the trick is to be engaged and to stay busy. So to stay learning, get into researching what kind of foods work, getting yourself healthy, understanding that you need sleep, you need water, you need food, you need exercise, you need to de-stress your life. Like all of these things all go into your physical health and your mental health, right? And by helping others while you're waiting for that watch, that pot to boil or that paint to dry, while you're helping others and serving others, you look up and you're like, oh man, I'm down 12 pounds. Oh man, I'm down 15 pounds. Now it took 4 months, right? But you're no longer sitting and looking at the clock talking about, man, this needs to happen faster. And it happens all the time, right? We've made some choices. Maybe we were just out there wilding out, and then we want to make this change. And it's like, Lord, I've been doing the right thing for a month. Like, when is my life going to change? I'm still paying for consequences that I did 2 years ago. It's like, no, you need to be patient. You're not going to get out of this instantaneously, right? But there's a lesson in that, in the process, that hopefully you will think twice before you make that mistake again or that decision again, because you know it's going to take years for you to right that ship, right? So in there, I think patience is really paramount. I love this particular set of verses here.
So, in what you said, there's a couple of things I want to kind of address to the people, and this is kind of what I
Mm-hmm.
was getting through in my message today. You know, um, one of the benefits of patience is it's going to strengthen your faith, in the process or in whatever it is you're doing. Like you said, it didn't, gaining weight doesn't happen overnight. Losing it doesn't happen overnight, right? But what happens is, when we're gaining it, it's usually kind of an absent-minded type of affair. We're just kind of going about not really, uh, and this isn't true for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes, we're just going about living, and things just kind of progress, right? I look up and now I got this beer gut, right? But you know, uh, the process of getting rid of it makes me focus more on the needs that of what needs to happen in order for me to uh, rid myself of it, right? And so as I go through that process and I see the results, I now have faith, that like, oh, this works, right? And so on moving that, translating that over into the spiritual realm, the same thing is true as Christians, as we exhibit patience, in uh, our faith and in our interactions with our God, it strengthens our faith because okay, I waited upon the Lord, and He did answer my prayers. Yeah, it wasn't overnight. Maybe I wasn't in a position where I needed. Thing is, back to your example, sometimes when people go and have weight reduction surgeries, they don't really appreciate, what I'm saying, that, and it's like, oh, I can just snap my fingers and get it off, and they'll gain it back or whatever. But if they do putting in the work, they understand the time and the effort, and again, it strengthens that faith. And so that was kind of one of the things I was alluding to during my sermon. And secondly, you know, you were saying that sometimes you lack faith. Uh, lack patience with those that don't exhibit, uh, the effort, right? They're not. You don't see them putting in the effort. You know, uh, I want to push back on you with a little bit on that one and say, ask you, that even those that don't push back, that don't, always exhibit, that effort, and it's their own situation,
Mm-hmm.
their own need, and they're not really putting in the effort, and they just want it done, which I'm not a proponent of. I'm like, yeah, you need to do the work, and I get you on that one. Um, but even in that, um, can you see uh, the benefits of initial patience with a person. Even if they're exhibiting, that lack of effort, uh, can you see cause for patience, in someone like that? Because you
Yeah,
kind
no,
of see.
I'm not beating them down like right as soon as they come through the door. It's like, all right, I got this task for you, and I look up, you ain't doing it. It's like out of here. It's not like that. Um, but there's so many different things, right? I'll help you push the boulder, but as soon as you stop, then I'm gonna stop. I can't
Mhm.
push the boulder for you, right? I can be your biggest cheerleader. Um, if someone comes into my orbit and is looking for help or guidance or whatever that case may be, I am patient at the beginning, right? Because I need to find out, who they are, if what it is they want is really what they want. Sometimes what people want isn't quite that. I need to ascertain, a part of how they're going to get
So
there.
my thing is, so when does the patience wear thin, and when is it appropriate for the patience to wear thin?
So okay, so there are a couple things. One,
Okay.
I'll say you're talking to one of my let's say one of my weaknesses, right? Folks will
Um,
say, you know, I could be more patient, right? Uh, so that's a fine line on when that is. However, um, for me, my dad would say there's worse hotels than mine. I used to hate when he said that to me. Like, you know, but I get it, right? It's like it may not be for you. If you come into my orbit, if you come into my space and you're needing mentorship or you're needing help, depending on what you have going on in your life, typically there's a sense of urgency, whether it's homelessness or whatever that crisis is that you're going through. Right? I need to fix my life. I'm ready, right? Uh, and so in that, I can patiently push you, but the pace is going to be quick. I'm patient in that. I know it's going to take time. I know you're going to stumble. I know you're going to fall down. Um, but there's a sense of urgency that comes under my hotel, if you will, right? And again, what I'm looking for is the effort. What I'm looking for is the consistency. What I typed in the chat just a second ago is, I was saying you've got patience and then you have mindfulness. And if I go back to the weight example, right?
Mhm.
I had back surgery. I was walking every morning, right? Doing great, eating well. I had back surgery. So now I can't walk. I got to recover, right? So the thing is the mindfulness, and if I'm putting it kind of from a worldly application side, but
Mhm.
from the spiritual side, it's the reason why Bible study and church and staying mind, staying prayerful, staying around folks that have their mind on the Lord, right? When you're mindful, when these trials and tribulations, well, these things that will tempt you to do something else or eat something else, if you're being mindful, you say, okay, I can't walk right now. I can't exercise the way that I was before. So I need to be more diligent in what I put in my mouth, right?
Mhm.
So, eat some Ritz with some cheese on it might not be the way. How about some broccoli if you still got to have that cheese? You need to be more mindful in that space. But what often happens is like, okay, well, I had something that I couldn't control. I had a surgery, so I can't physically exercise for a little bit till I recover.
Yeah.
But you can't eat what you were eating. You know what I'm saying? So you need to be more mindful in that space. And so if you're thinking and you're cognizant of it, again, that piece of paper that's down by your feet is what I'm doing right now, serving my mission, is what I'm doing right now, serving God. Then you say, nope, I shouldn't have that sleeve of Ritz. I need to go and have some vegetables or some fruit. I need to go ahead and make a meal and not snack.
Mhm.
I know I'm busy. Take an extra 10 minutes, make a meal instead of just snacking on something, grabbing for something, because you're mindlessly eating, right? That bag of popcorn or the chips or whatever it is, or the candy, energy drinks, whatever. I'm just really calling myself out today. But, that mindfulness piece is important. So, what I'm looking for is, again, the effort and the mindfulness. I can help you to stay on track. And what typically happens is when folks come into my space, they're like, I'm willing to do. Just tell me what to do, and they start coming, right, and then they do it for a week, and like I said, that instant gratification. I want to go to this party. I want to go and have this drink. I want to go and smoke that. I want to go and make this choice or this decision. I don't want to save this money here, whatever the case may be, and they'll go and they'll disappear from me, right?
Yep.
I watch people do that with my dad all the time. So they go and they do the bad thing, and then after a while, after they get past that guilt and they can hold their head up and come back, they come back in because they know this is the place that is righting their ship, right? That's where they need to be. And so I'm patient in that, where it's like, you ready now? Come on in. You know what I mean? And so there's a patience there too. It's like, I have to let you fail. I can't do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. But I am going to drive you, because that's ultimately what it takes. And the
Okay.
state of the world, we don't have time for you to.
So what does losing patience look like for you?
Oh man, throwing chairs. No. Losing patience for me. I definitely can yell. I can yell at folks. I definitely have a very stern voice. Uh, I can. Uh, I think some of my advice can be a little bit more harsh than normal. So my truth can have a little less sugar on it than normal, right? I try to package things up a little nicer. I want to be a realist, but I know that a lot of folks can't digest, just the raw vegetable.
Mm.
So they're gonna need a little sugar or some butter or some cheese on there, some seasoning in order to get the vegetables down.
Yep.
Until they
Yep.
kind of build up that storehouse. So when my patience wears thin, there's not really any seasoning on there. There's no cheese,
So
no butter.
is the loss of patience ever helpful? Is it helpful? And like, is it helpful? Is it gonna produce the results? Um, like like you said, you kind of like get hot and explosive or whatever, and like I'm just gonna tell you kind of how it is, and like
You know what? Interestingly, so I'm a very thoughtful person, and I would say that it can, and I think it depends on, from a probability standpoint. It's probably more probable that you should remain patient. However, there are folks that ain't ready yet. They just keep talking and talking, and we know we've interacted with folks like that. We've been that person where we're saying, "Hey, I want to change my life, and I want to do this, and I want to do that." And it's like, stop the cap. You're not really wanting to be about it. You just want the outcome without doing the work. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so by losing your patience in that sense, that reveals that that person really isn't ready, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm losing my patience with you, if we're looking at the four agreements, right? If I'm angry about something, it has nothing to do with you. That's my anger, right? So if you allow someone else to block your blessing, then you've lost that. You see what I'm saying? You're cutting your own nose to spite your face. What do you care? I tell folks all the time, what do you care what people say about you, what people say you look like, or whatever, or the decisions you're making, when they ain't helping you pay your rent, they're not helping you raise your children, they're not there for you when you're sick, they're not there for you when you need someone to talk to or cry. Why do you care what those people think when they're not going to help you when you really need it?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be worried and concerned about those folks, but we do, right? Because that's just who we are as people. But I think that can be a good thing, because I've lost my patience now. And I'm not throwing folks out, but let's say they go away, right? Because they're like, oh, he's mad, I'm going to go away. They've got to make a decision. How I said it, whether I was said in anger or whatever the case may be, was I right? Was I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That was kind of where I was going with it next. Like, you know, sometimes we can lose patience, in a situation, and this is another point I was kind of making in my sermon. But I you know I tend to be thoughtful, as you said, as a thoughtful person. But I in my thoughtfulness, I try and put myself in other people's situation, right, as much as I can. Try and put myself in their mindset of where they're coming from, and what they're doing. So I will, and which tends to give me a bit more patience, because first, I need time to just kind of understand the situation or whatever. And, sometimes, I think people, and I'm not saying you or
Mhm.
anything, I'm just saying, sometimes I think people can lose patience with other people because, um, they're approaching a situation from two different angles, and, you know, uh, some people's lived experiences, that have made them who they are, you know, isn't, conducive to, them being, the best at, maybe putting forth effort or, just advocating for themselves or whatever else, right? So they come at things, looking at things from one perspective where, the next person is looking at it from a different perspective. And, those two intersections, can sometimes, you know, be polar opposite. And so, my thing and what I was kind of preaching today was, like sometimes we have to slow down, and stretch on that fuse and make it a little bit longer, so that we're not so that we can have patience with people that may have not learned or may not have developed, you know um, in a way that allows them to be, in our minds, the best version in that situation, right?
Well, and I'm cognizant of that. Uh, and what I would say is this: I am super big on accountability,
Hmm.
right? And when folks come to me, you know, they want this change, they want to work on their finances, whatever their goal is that they want to do. There has to be a level of accountability that goes with it, right? Because if you're not accountable and you've got a victim mindset that, oh, this happened to me and that happened to me and I don't know why all these stuff keeps happening in my life, well then you're you're not built on a strong foundation, right? When you're in the water and the seas are rough, are you being pushed to or fro, or is your boat stable that you're going to continue to row through those waves, right, through that storm and get to where you're going, or are you just, you know what I'm saying? It's your locus of control.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
control your life, or does life control you?
Mhm.
And so I think it's the same thing with the Bible. When folks come, if there's this is where the faith comes in. This is where the accountability comes in. What you were doing wasn't working. You're hungry and you're thirsting for something different, and so you came to church, you opened up the Bible and you started reading. You got to give it a fair chance, right? You can't give it, oh, I started reading for a month and nothing happened in my life, so I'm done with it. When you can watch millions and millions of people, regardless of just Christianity, whatever their faith is, faith based, moving, positively through life and, navigating through the trials and tribulations. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing when folks come to me. It's like, look, again, you're here, you need help. What you were doing wasn't working. So you need to have faith. It's going to hurt a little bit, right? You dug a hole, or a hole was dug for you that you're trying to navigate out of. And so now you've got to do a 180 typically to change the direction of your life or the direction of that situation or that goal that you're working on.
Yeah.
And so I need to be patient, right? And be an earnest broker, but you also have to be accountable, not have a victim mindset, and then exercise some faith. And
Well,
so those that do, because I know I had to, right? I I got my GED when I turned 2 days after I turned 16 years old. Only went to the ninth grade, right? I didn't step foot into Olympic college until I was 24. Hold a master's degree, summa cum laude. Well, I guess that's all 4.0s, whatever that is, right? But I had to have faith that by me taking this path, this was going to allow me to take care of myself and take care of my family. And this was the right decision. And that took a decade.
yeah.
That this wasn't I'm gonna get this in a,
Overnight thing.
you,
No,
you know what I mean?
no.
So I have to believe in the faith. Now, again, I didn't have my dad from 15 to 24, but what do you say? God, education, and children. So that was always in my mind. And it's like, all right, at the end of the day, education is going to be one of the great changes in my life. And, they say they can't take your education from you, and knowledge is power. And I say, well, knowledge is only power if you use it, right? Knowledge that you keep to yourself that you never share is useless.
Wasted.
So it's only powerful if you actually use the knowledge. So and again, all that to say, for folks, they're looking for something different. Have faith in the process. It's going to take time. And for those that have, with Keyshawn today, there's people that's honking at me, they're yelling at me in their car. Hey, Mr. Cameron, how you doing? These are, folks that I taught, when I started at OC in 2012, 10 years ago now, right? Hey, Mr. C, how many people remember their instructors or their teachers in a fond way, can remember the lessons and, how that instructor made them feel. And I was a hard grader. I failed folks all the time. But I love people, you know what I'm saying? And so they can feel the love. They know that I want what's best for them. And I'm not saying or doing anything that's going to hurt them.
So we're rounding around our hour
already.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is a good one here.
Let's
we need a part 2 for this one.
Let's move on to the third aspect of today's message was not needing qualifiers in your speech, right? And so and I know in our community, it just kind of, it's like it's like an adjective almost, you just like kind of throw it out there when you speaking, but it's like, the Bible here in verse 12 is like, yeah, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And then, that's it. Right. But for us, and for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I swear I'll do this and I promise. And, oh, I swear to God on my mother's grave, on my grandma's grave, on my kid's head and, all this, right. All these qualifiers to, their yeses and their nos, and so James here, he says, hey, let your yes be yes and your no be no. But he's actually quoting his big brother, which if we turn and we look at Matthew chapter 5, Jesus taught this concept in chapter 5. If we look at, I'm not going to, we looked at during the sermon, we looked at chapter 5, verse 33 through 37, but we're just going to look at 36 and 37, where Jesus says, do not swear by your head because you can't make a single hair white or black. And I got a lot of whites coming in these days. But anyway, you can't make a single hair white or black, but let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Anything more than this is from the evil one. So James is quoting Jesus here in our scripture today, where he's saying, hey, pretty much in my affirmation is that he's like, look, just be a person of your word, be a man of your word, be a woman of your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're not going to do it, don't do it. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be there, and of course life happens. So if you've given your word on something and then situations change, that's going to make you change your word, then you notify and inform that person like, hey, this is, what's happened or whatever, X, Y, and Z, so that you can still maintain the validity of your word without, having to add those qualifiers. And, and this is what I tell my kids, and I try and teach them this all the time. Sometimes, people get, to a point in life where, all that they have is their word, like everything is hanging on, your dependability, how solid your word is, business deals and, $1 billion deals sometimes depends on like a person's word. Like, is this person dependable or not? Can I trust what they're telling me? And if if you spend your time just being true to your word, you don't have to add those qualifiers. You don't have to, say, hey, I swear and I promise and so forth. You can just simply state what it is you need to state, and that's enough for anybody, because you have a quality, built up a quality of a of being known for your word. And so um yeah, what
So
do
there,
you
so there's
think
a
of that?
lot there. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
great
yeah.
too. So you know, so here's where I do exercise patience, and I think there's nuance in here. When we're talking about your yeses being yeses and your nos being nos,
Hmm.
when folks are coming to me and they're in the struggle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I understand that there's going to be cognitive dissonance, right? I want a different life. I'm not ready, right? I know this is what's good for me. I really want it, but I'm struggling with drugs and alcohol. I'm struggling with this relationship. I'm struggling with gambling. Whatever these things are, And so I'm in, and I'm doing it for a little bit, but then I fall away. I'm in, and then I fall away. And there's that cognitive dissonance, and a lot of that is centered around fear, right?
Hmm.
So I look at it as a ladder, and you're at the bottom of the ladder because now you're help seeking, right? Which is great. And as you start climbing up the ladder, there's this fear that comes over you that says, "Oh my God, I'm up on the third rung. What if I get tired and I can't keep doing it and I fall? He
Hmm.
gonna judge me. Everybody else is judging me, right?"
Hmm.
I was just
Hmm.
talking to shout out to Sabrina. I was just talking to her about that the other day. When I started going to college, my brother, my family, my friends, they used to tease me. Oh, you think you better than us? You smarty pants, and call me lean bean, bookworm. They were unmerciful.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and it's like, no, we want you to play video games and drink and barbecue and hang out with the girls, and
Yeah.
and that's what it was. But I had to go to class at 8:30 in the morning, right? And so that was, for a while, I had a foot in both worlds, right? And it's like, well, you know how they say, you can't serve two
Yeah, you
masters.
got to make a choice.
You got to make a
Yeah.
choice. And so it took a while for me. Now, I didn't
Yeah.
have any mentorship at that time. It was
Yeah.
just my intrinsic motivation of just I need and want a different life for myself.
Yeah.
Well, it got to the
I
point where
suffered the same thing. Go ahead.
I had to go home because I got a test tomorrow or I got a paper to write.
Hmm.
And what I started noticing was I'd go home, I'd get the paper done, I'd go to bed, I'd get to class. I would finish my class at about 11:30. I'd walk over to my brother's house. They're just getting up from the night before, right? Now I've gone to class.
Hmm.
They're just getting up. I'd hang out for them for a little bit, and I'd leave at about 8:30 at night and rinse and repeat. You know, year two, 2.5, or a year and a half in, I stopped going over as
Yeah.
much. I didn't need to because my mind was, now I was committed. Both feet were
Yeah.
on that side.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it was like, I want my yes to be yes, but it's a maybe. It's contingent upon how it's going to be. And the people closest to us can hurt us the most. So
Mm.
as we ascend this ladder and they're looking at you like, oh, yeah, I know you think you're too good. We just waiting on you to fail. You'll be back down here sooner or later, right? The people that love us the most are the
Yeah.
ones that
Yeah.
want to see us fail,
Yeah,
right?
the Bible says that your enemies be those of your own household.
And
Yeah.
it's hard to turn away from that, because they're your family members, they're your friends, they were the ones that were there from you. You've been through some hard stuff. You were back to back fighting. Multiple people. They were down like four flat tires, and now you need to turn away from them for yourself or for yourself and your children, and that's hard to do, right? Because you look like you're betraying them, and you're not. You're honoring yourself. You've been betraying yourself this whole time. So your yeses being yeses and no being nos, I get that. And that kind of goes back to the patience. I am patient in that regard. And that's why I try to encourage people to stay focused, stay volunteering, right? Don't come every now and then, because that idle mind is the devil's playground, is a true
Mhm.
story. Stay in the word, go to Bible study, sing in the choir,
Yeah.
join another group where you're reading the Bible. Watch videos. The
Yeah.
more your mind is there, say my mind steady on Jesus. I mean
Mhm.
that's real, right? And it goes for anything that you're trying to work on in your life, because I'm about the tangible piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's school and education, keep your mind on that. Don't get caught up in TikTok and YouTube videos. Do a TED talk on psychology if that's what you're into, right?
Yes.
Learn
Yes.
your craft. You want to become a welder. Watch welding videos, right? go and volunteer somewhere where you can learn how to weld, so you can get those hours in, so you can become an expert. So it's like 10,000 hours to become an expert. You want to be a YouTuber? Then get in there, start researching it. How do how do you get subscribers and clicks and things like that? How do you make thumbnails? You can constantly be focused on the thing that you're trying to do, so that
Yeah.
it's harder for you to be pulled away
Away from
into
it.
something
Yeah.
else. So for that, I think that's really important, and that actually will help your no be no and your yes be yes. Like, this is
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I'm focused, and you can't turn my yes into a no or my yes into a maybe. I'm steadfast.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to, your experience there. As I accepted Christ into my life, um, you know, in the beginning, you're right. I'm 2 feet in the world that I was, you know, uh, I, the, the worldly world, and, 1 foot in the church. And, you know, um, my eyes, began to, open up. And we're kind of talking about this in our morning Bible school this morning. As far as Jesus being called the light, light of the world. And my, one of the discussions I was sharing with the class, that you know, uh, it was for me. I had lived so much of my life, just in the darkness, and not realizing that I was in the darkness, right? And, because I was born in it, and, I'm living in it. So I'm used to it. And it's like, you don't even realize that you're blind and you're in the darkness until this light enters into your life. And for me, it was like that light entering into my life, one, made me aware of the fact that I was in darkness, and then it began to reveal uh, myself. It was like, this whole time I've been in darkness. I've been standing in front of this mirror, not knowing it, and the light is now increasing and increasing, and I'm seeing myself more clearly and clearly and clearly, and like, okay, I haven't, I've been putting on different costumes and, trying different things in the dark, and not realizing that, this isn't who I am, and this isn't, what I should be wearing or doing or whatever else, just as an analogy. And, Jesus shining that light in my life, it now makes me see things clearer. I can now see, the world for what it is. I can see myself for, who I was being, who I was. And it's like, yeah, I'm not, who I should be, you know and and so I began to, pull away from the world. And, I had a lot of, worldly friends that just kind of went by the wayside. And it was like, kind of like, that, the MC Hammer effect, like all the money's gone, so all the
Mhm.
friends are gone,
Mhm.
and, saying, or the Tyson effect or whatever, and they're all gone now. And so, like, all of that worldly living's, kind of, fading away, and I don't have it in me anymore. And so now they're fading away, and, like, he's not that person anymore. And, I feel like a lot of them did just kind of sit back and, wait, and they're, watch, and like, yeah, I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But it was like, yeah, this is, this is who I am now. And, so yeah, this is me. And it took a while, for me to, realize the same thing, that, uh, what's going on in the world isn't leading anywhere, and I'm dying. I'm slowly killing myself, and, I got to get out of that and get away from it, and begin to just be a man of who, be a man of my word, and, be a man of God. Changes things. It changes things a lot. But I'm cognitive, and I realize that, you know um not everybody is there. Not everybody has learned, how to be a person of their word, and be true to their word. And, you know um it's a process for them too, and so it leads back around to that patience thing, and getting to this point, and getting to this understanding, of I don't need to have these qualifiers, you know, added on to me if I'm just simply, you know, being and doing, you know, um, uh, being honest and just being true to who I'm supposed to be. I don't have to add these qualifiers.
What's really cool right now is the phrase that's out there, stop the cap, right? And so that's your yeses being yeses and your no's being no's. Yeah. So it's like if you were going to say you're going to do something or you ain't going to do something, but you really going to do it, and someone is thinking stop the cap, or you thinking in your own mind stop the cap, then you're not being honest, right? Yeah. And so in that there's a lesson in that. That's what I love about the transferability of skills and knowledge, right? Something that you read in the Bible can be applicable into your everyday life.
I won't say can. I say it is. That's the whole purpose.
Well, but again, can if you use it. Well, right? Yeah, it's a resource if you use it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Otherwise,
I agree with
folks
you.
Folks read this all day long and they don't do nothing with it. Yeah. It's like, well, they can quote it back and forth. We used to memorize the books of the Bible when I was a kid.
That is true.
That was the thing. It's like, well,
I can't argue with that. Yeah, you have to put it into practice.
Yeah, you got to put it in practice. Yeah. But stopping the cap, if you're struggling with your yeses being yeses and your no's being no's and exercising that patience, then don't cap. Start small. Say something that you know that you're going to keep, and then build on it. And then
I get as a pastor, I get a lot of people saying, I'm gonna come to church.
I'm gonna come. It's like, hey, it ain't gonna hurt my feelings. That's your own salvation, right? Yes, you come. Yeah. You don't. It's like, I'm gonna come. Stop the cap. You should just start saying it. They'll probably give you a double take. Like, what? But you just lied to yourself. You ain't lied to me.
Don't. What they say, don't threaten me with a good time. I ain't got no sense. I might just start saying
that. Like, man, you should have a button. Stop the cap.
Stop capping.
But, in that, I wanted to say two things.
Well,
three.
Before you say it, how about you end with these three things? Because we're at our hour, and I'll let you wrap up with these.
So, one thing is it was hard to decide to change my life, right? Mm-hmm. I never imagined that I would be the person that I was today. When I first moved to Bremerton in 1997, I was a rag wearing, wannabe gangster dude. Thought that I was hard. No one could tell me nothing, and you wouldn't recognize that person back in 1997 from that person today. Mm-hmm. And this conversation made me think of something. Every time someone sees me now, they say, oh, hey, are you a reverend? Are you a pastor? Because I'm always wearing a tie. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, I don't do that. And my response in my mind, I was just talking to Akuye about this the other day, is I need all people, but especially Black boys and girls, when they see a Black man with a tie on, doesn't necessarily mean that they, part of the clergy of the church. You know what I'm saying?
Part of the reason why I stopped wearing suits and ties.
But here's the thing. They do need to see Black men in this position, right? Yeah. And it's like, whether I'm a business owner or part of the clergy or whatever the case may be, this is who I am and this is how I present, right? Yeah. But what I noticed was, I was like, no, it's not so much, how are they guessing that? Because you got NBA players that wear suits. You got, hip hop artists that wear suits. You got nightclub people wearing suits.
Yeah, but when?
No, but still, you're still going to see them. My point is that they wear them and they see them. So you would be able to tell an NBA star wearing a suit from a preacher wearing a suit. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It presents different. It looks different. I mean, the cut might be more nightclubish or whatever. Mm. So I don't get mistaken for that. I always get mistaken for walking the Christian walk. That comes through patience and time, right? And so this conversation is probably going to make me change my response on that. When they see me, they see a preacher. But it's not so much the suit. It is the man, right? That has been built, through trial over all these years and walking that walk. I was very proud of my dad. Proud of my dad. We used to joke about him because he had the same phone number for like 20, 30 years. Well, now I've had the same phone number for 20 or 30 years, right? So when people come and look for me, oh, just hold, Rev.
I am, but I got to push back. Go ahead.
You can. Just let me finish my 3 thoughts there. When we used to joke about that, it's like, oh, you still got the same number. And it's like, well, people can always reach out, like old folks got landlines, and many old folks don't even have that now. People don't even know what landlines are. But I bumped into someone that I hadn't seen in probably more than 10 years. But I've had the same phone number. And it's like, because one, I'm blessed, right, to be able to have the same phone number. My phone to get cut off, I couldn't pay the bill and had to get a new number. But I know that people are going to need to access me from the past, and they're able to do that. So I'm accessible in that way. When they come, Mr. Cameron, can you write me a letter of reference? It's been 7 years. Well, tell me what's been going on with yourself, right? And I can check in. So in a lot of ways, I'm becoming more and more like my dad, right? Where I am dependable. People can count on me. And that comes from that patience, right? And continuing to do the same thing. It can be hard to do that. I tell folks, you write your resume every day. So people are going to believe what it is that you present to them. So if you present a hot mess, they're going to think a hot mess. If you're presenting that you got it together and you're doing what you're doing, now they can't see you all the time, but usually, you hang out with someone long enough, they're going to show you who they are, right? Mm-hmm. And so now, for all of these, more than a decade, I've been the same person. So they know it, they trust it. My yeses are my yeses, my no's are my no's. And that came through patience in myself, patience in the process, belief and faith that if I work hard and I'm dedicated to it, I will get to where I want to be. And now I feel like I'm that person now. And we can say, you and I were just talking about it, I think yesterday. It was like, we don't want to take away the things that happened in our past because this is who made us who we are today.
Yeah.
That's a huge change to be able to see the blessing in what framed you to the house that you are now.
Yeah.
Right? And how much of a blessing that is. Go ahead and give me your pushback.
So, and I agree with you on that. And, it's important to, see that growth. What my pushback is in the suit thing, right? Because I used to get the same thing. Like, when I first started walking this Christian walk and, accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, I didn't grow up in the church. So it was later in life. And, I always wear suits to church, but my thinking coming from the world, not having grown up in the church was that's what church people do. They wear suits, so I have to dress up to go to church, and thankfully I was already kind of starting to straighten my life out a little bit. And so I had, not necessarily a suit, but I had a jacket, dress clothes. And, so that was my thought. Like, if you go to church, you got to dress up. And, I used to get the same thing when I first started going to church. That was one of the first things, like when I went to, because first church I started going to was Mount Lebanon out here under Pastor Coleman's cousin. Goodness, my brain's a fart right now. But anyway, so when I go to the church, very first thing that happens is as I'm going up to the door, one of the gentlemen like, hey, how are you? Are you a pastor? And I'm like, I don't know anything about the word. I'm just, I'm here trying to, figure it out for life or whatever. And my thing is, our youth, what I'm saying? Yeah, they see the football player, the basketball player, in the suit and tie. And that's usually, and they know this, that's usually because, they're required to wear that suit and tie, during the press conference or whatever else, or they're putting on that suit and tie, for like some type of event or whatever else, what I'm saying. And so our the world and our youth, they see them in that, but they know that that's based off of a reason, and it's not normal apparel. And that's my pushback. Like, you know, there was a time when a shirt and tie, that's just normal apparel, and it's, that's just what you wear. And so it, is there's no association there. Now it's, for us, the association is, yeah, either, what I'm saying, you're in church, or you wearing this, because you're on your way to court, or, what I'm saying, something like that, or whatever, and there's no, unfortunately, we don't have a large presence of of professionals in the communities that are dressing in the suit and tie, what I'm saying, they look like us.
Which is one of the reasons why I do it.
Yeah, I
'Cause
know.
it's important.
I know. But for me, it's exactly the opposite why I don't wear my suits and ties anymore, because I need to be able to, engage and meet a person where they're at and say, like, hey, you don't have to fit this stereotype of church, to have God, where I love the fact that you do, because I want our youth to see the suit and tie and say, hey, I'm wearing this not because I'm going to church, but because, I'm a decent, upstanding person. I got something going for my life, whatever, like this can be normal attire for me to look presentable and professional. You know what I'm saying?
You know what's funny?
And so
is they don't ask the other brother why he's sagging his pants. You know what I'm saying?
What do
He's
you
just sagging, and it's
Oh.
like, oh, that's just what it is, right?
exactly.
They don't ask that question.
Exactly.
And that just tickled me when you said that. One
Yeah.
of the things you said, though, I think, again, yes, when people see me, they'll say, oh, are you a pastor? Are you a preacher? Right? You know what they never say to me?
What?
Are you going to court?
Oh.
Because you just brought that up.
Yeah, but
Because remember, I wear a tie 6-7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
It's Saturday. I got a tie
but
on.
that's the
right?
light that's shining,
That's
in you.
my point.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's my point, right? I don't get, are you
Yeah.
going to court?
Yeah, well,
what happened?
But on the verse, I don't get, like, hey, you want to hit this, you want to take a drink, you want to go party or whatever. That's the light part shining through.
Right.
And my thing is, which is crazy. Like, we reverse, like, because I got suits and ties in the closet, but I don't want to wear them.
And I have jeans and tennis shoes, and
Yeah.
I do wear them.
Yeah.
And people lose their mind, like, you got jeans? Like, yes, I have jeans.
Yeah,
I got sweats. I got shorts.
Yeah, I gotta have a bug in my butt to put on my suit. It's like, yeah, nah, I'm not doing it.
But I think
we gotta change those stereotypes.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, though, because when I see people, it's rarely, actually, Sunday's probably the one day that I don't wear a tie. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't go to a Sunday church.
Yeah.
So, usually that's the day where I can kind of get stuff caught up, or I'm with Layla, right? And so if I'm with Layla, unless I'm sometimes I wear a tie, but it's not, Sunday's probably the day that you would find me not wearing the tie.
Yeah.
So it really is the opposite. But you'll catch me Monday through Saturday with a tie on.
Yeah.
But I don't get,
suit,
are you going to court, right?
Yeah.
I get, are you a preacher? And that's part of the patience, right?
Yeah.
So it's you changing your self-image
Mhm.
so that other people eventually will see what they see.
Yeah.
Or what you see.
What, and that, when I say that's the light part, right? And this is the big thing, back to what you were saying, and I know we're going over people, this is my last point. The thing is, right, those lived experiences, right? Like, where you can recognize, the, like you say, the foundation that the house sits on. Like, it took all of this to build up, to this point, right? But in that, like, person that you are now, and then, I believe God's blessed me with a bit of discernment, right? So, like, I can see and usually, kind of gauge a person where they're at, within a, few seconds of kind of, talking with them. But in that approach, it's like, you carry yourself different than what you used to. I know I do. When I was out there in the world, kind of, doing my worldly, fleshly thing, I carried myself differently. Where now, I carry myself in a different way now. And it's like, yeah, people don't see me in that aspect, regardless of what I got on, they can still see that light because I'm not carrying myself that way. And I think the same is true for you. You carry yourself in a way where it's like, yeah, he ain't didn't did nothing, and not to say that, everybody's who they, but
I
we
have.
could, yeah. Well, no, my point was that we could,
Yeah.
everybody has the potential, to do harm.
No, I'm
But,
just saying I
we thank
have
God.
in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah, and,
You know.
so yeah, but that's my thing.
Well, when,
I
I just,
find it
let me say one
interesting.
more thing. Is,
Go ahead.
a lot of
You can
folks
end this out.
they may not look at it from the Bible aspect, right? So there's a lot of folks that will say, "I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual," right? It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of folks that talk about frequency. So I don't know if you hear that, like, I'm trying to be on a higher frequency now. I don't want to be down on that low frequency with your drama. I ain't got time for that. I'm trying to be on this higher frequency.
Yeah.
And so when we're using that as our scaffolding, if you will, I operate at a certain frequency, not at the highest frequency, not in the spiritual and religious frequency where I'm just a pastor or a minister, right?
No.
I can go low frequency. I could talk dirty and I can get angry and I could, I could be crass and do all these things that would be low frequency, if you will. But that's not where I live my life. And a lot of folks are living a low frequency life, but they know that they're not happy in that space and they want to increase their frequency or more consistently stay in a higher frequency and not let things or people drop their frequency, drop their spirituality, drop their religion, drop their faith, drop it down. You want to stay strong. And so to do that, I would just encourage people to be patient with yourself, to be honest with yourself, and to know that all these things really are lifestyle changes, right? You don't get it by wishful thinking. I hear that all the time, right? It's like, well, I'm just going to hope and I'm just going to pray, and that things are going to be all right. It's like, well, what exactly are you doing
to do? Yeah,
to get there and stay there?
What's the active? What's the active part of that? Thinking, doing, and praying.
Wishing ain't gonna do it because I've been wishing for the Powerball and it ain't happened. So you
don't go buy the ticket, you ain't gonna win, right? Like,
no, I'm saying I bought the ticket.
My point is like, I wish I win the Powerball, but you never go buy the ticket. You ain't gonna win, right?
Well, that's true. But you know what? A lot of people buy the ticket and they're like, "Well, I should win because I bought the ticket." It's like, no, it don't work like that, right?
Yeah, that don't work.
So
either.
it's like, no, you gotta keep putting the work in. So. I love this one. We might need to do a part 2 on this one.
Well, next week, unfortunately, we have to go on, and we'll be concluding the book of James.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll do verses 13 right through 20, and we'll be done with the book of James, and we'll move into another series as the Lord leads me in my prayers as far as what it is He would have me to say.
Well, you picked out a powerful 6 verses for us. So that is James chapter 5, verses 7 through 12. We hope that you found this conversation useful and you can apply some of these things to your life. As they say, eat the meat, spit out the bones. And, and as my dad says, there's worse hotels than mine. So
yeah, you killed me with that one.
Hey, it's true.
Yeah.
All right. So for Pastor Ellington, I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. So glad that you could join us. We'll be back next Saturday, Lord willing.
Amen.
All right.